Hey guys, now is the turn of all the great spin-offs out there of JRPGs. So for this video, I'm only covering North American releases, spin-offs that are RPGs, not spin-offs that became fighting games or something entirely different. And I'm also not including those crossover spin-offs, like for example Persona Q, or Fire Emblem Warriors, Dragon Quest Heroes, or even Tales of the World Radiant Mythology for the PSP. Those games are also spin-offs, but they are more like crossovers, so I'd rather make a crossover top 10 one day. For now, only exclusive spin-offs of the sagas or franchises or games or whatever. That's what I want to cover right now on this video with you guys. So let's begin. Number 10, Final Fantasy Tactics. I know a lot of you will say that this should be number 1 because it is actually the epitome of spin-offs, but like I've said in previous videos, I just didn't quite enjoy this game. I don't hate it, I actually respect it a lot, but I simply didn't like it. I really need to give it another chance, I know, so I wanted to at least make like an honorable mention of it, which made me decide to include it on the list. The real reason being that I am aware of the historical value this game has. It literally launched the tactical genre into success, and often other strategy RPGs are compared to it just for a reference. It's probably the most popular, significant, and beloved Japanese tactical RPG of all time. I could argue that Fire Emblem came before, but its games never left Japan until many years later after the Famicom titles. So, my respect goes to this excellent video game, but it stays on number 10 because, after all, these videos are always about my subjective opinion and personal favorites. Number 9, Grandia Extreme. Many hate on Grandia Extreme for many different reasons. Most of them are invalid in my opinion, since they all attack the difficulty and the linear, repetitive gameplay it has. Well, it has the name Extreme for a reason. This game was made as a spin-off for those who really enjoy the battle system, so they could go and abuse it in the hardest ways possible. The problem was that many people kind of ignored this fact and wanted to believe that this was actually the third entry in the canon series. To be honest with you, I am aware of the game's flaws, but I will say it achieved its purpose nonetheless. Like I said, it's a spin-off, not supposed to be a canonical title, made in an extreme way, obviously, for hardcore fans. Now, linear and repetitive, well, it's made like a dungeon crawler, so perhaps Game Arts or Enix should have explained that little part on their marketing before launching the title. Or maybe they did, who knows? Number 8, Lufia 4, The Ruins of Lore. I've covered this game before in previous videos and I've always said it's a pretty decent title. It is still slightly connected to its predecessors, but the developers decided this will be a spin-off instead of a canon game. Some classic mechanics from the previous games were now gone, but it was still a Lufia game which included a turn-based system with the option to use monsters by your side to fight against your enemies, among other characteristics. Like with the previous title on this list, gamers shouldn't play this RPG with the original Lufia ideas in mind, but instead with the knowledge of it being simply a spin-off of the series, and technically the last original Lufia to be created, since what came afterwards for the Nintendo DS was the remake of the second Lufia. After that, the series died. So give this game a chance. It might not be as good as the others, but it is still quite cool in its own way. Next is Valkyrie Profile Covenant of the Plume. Well, you know it. I have a strong love-hate relationship with this son of a bitch. I have heavily complained about this game in previous videos, so you're probably thinking it makes no sense to include it on a top like this. But the truth is, I have to confess, I did enjoy suffering through this nightmare, because the story and the characters are so damn good that I couldn't resist tolerating its many difficulty spikes throughout the game. Believe it or not, I did reach the final stages but never got past them. It's so freaking hard, this game, so freaking unfair, and if you don't accept or manipulate the complex mechanics of this game, you'll never beat it, like me. So yeah, I had to include this strategy spin-off simply because the story, the narrative, music, characters, and some favorable points in the battle system like the combos were actually great. I still hate it as well, so here's some real footage to remember the first time I talked about this fucking game. Fuck. Okay, next, Ragnarok Odyssey. I recently included this game on my hidden PS3 gems video, so as usual, as sort of like a tradition of my channel, here we go again. Ragnarok Odyssey is a spin-off of the popular MMORPG Ragnarok, which was truly a sensation back in the day. Here they turned the battle system into a hack and slash experience, an action RPG which I must compare to the Phantasy Star universe or online games for reasons you're witnessing right now. And since I love those games, I'm obviously loving this one. My recommendation, however, will have to stay away from those looking for a really solid story, since this is one of those classic RPGs that are mostly quest-driven, and considering your main character is the one you customize at the beginning, you probably already have a good idea of how this game will be. Other than that, it's a great spin-off, and with a very solid multiplayer experience. Next is Suikoden Tactics. It was obvious that if Suikoden is my favorite video game franchise ever, I will have to include its spin-offs. Tactics, as the name implies, is a strategy RPG that follows the side story of the infamous Suikoden 4. I say infamous because that one is considered to be the worst in the series. I still loved it, so therefore I obviously enjoyed its spin-off. Tactics starts with the protagonist, Kirill, being a kid, meaning the game takes place at the beginning only, 7 years before the events of Suikoden 4. And when Kirill grows up, it's now 3 years after those events. And now for the rest of the game. To be honest with you, there's nothing that really stands out in this game, other than the classic Suikoden feeling every now and then. So it's a pretty standard strategy RPG with some original aspects that I suggest checking them out for yourself if you're into the series or at least into tactical games. It's a good RPG, a good spin-off, but not better than the next one I'm about to talk about, which is Suikoden Tierkreis for the Nintendo DS. Now, Tierkreis, another spin-off that was the first Suikoden to be released for a portable console, is a much better game. First, because most of the classic mechanics return, even though changed for a little worse than intended. The battle system was now downgraded to 4 party members per battle, and it resembled more of a Final Fantasy system than a Suikoden one. Despite changing crucial elements like the war battles or duels, and taking out some negative impact the game had on the series, I'd say Tierkreis is pretty solid. I am able to say this not because I am a fan of the Suikoden franchise, but because I understood when I was playing it that it was a spin-off. So, just like with Suikoden Tactics, I removed my head from any original and classic Suikoden ideas in order to be able to enjoy this game. I did, so here I am recommending this awesome RPG once again. Number 3 goes to Persona 3 The Answer. I made a video about the best JRPG sequels ever and I included this one. It's not exactly a standalone title because it comes as an exclusive game inside the Persona 3 Fest edition. That and the fact that several gameplay mechanics were removed, like the school simulator, make this game more of a spin-off than a canonical title. A strange fact is that in the Persona 4 Arena games, which are fighting games, the characters seem to acknowledge the events occurred in this game, which is the direct sequel of the classic Persona 3 we all know. So spin-off, sequel, canon title... removing gameplay mechanics, like I said, is what made me decide that this game was all 3 in 1. You spend the entire game locked within the dorm, with Aegis now as the main character who encounters her alleged sister, turning the whole game into a quest for... well, okay, no spoilers, so go and play it yourself. It's a great RPG, despite not having the school simulator, and just like Grandia Extreme, It was made as a harder title with heavy dungeon crawler elements, but with an awesome sequel story that I enjoyed to its fullest. Number 2. Ragnarok Tactics. This tactical RPG is yet another spin-off of the famous Ragnarok online game. It was an exclusive for the PSP, but you can still play it on the PS Vita, and boy, the lack of good marketing made most people forget about it. I think that was a terrible mistake, since this has got to be one of the best portable strategy RPGs that I've played in my life. It offers 3 different routes initially, and the option to customize your own character with the many different jobs the game offers. You take part as a mercenary going on your chosen path to accompany these characters. The story is really solid, the characters are likable, and the art is beautiful. On terms of battle, well, it works very similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, moving in squares, attacking one enemy or various with special attacks, etc. The game's challenging but balanced at the same time, so it's very friendly and it can become quite the addiction if you really get into it. So to me, in other words, this is one of the best spin-offs ever made. Number 1. Nier. You saw this coming, didn't you? Or maybe not, since you didn't expect this game to be an actual spin-off. As we all know, it has become its own series, but that doesn't change the fact that the developers made this game as a spin-off of the Drakengard series and initially had no intention of working on something else. However, despite meeting little commercial success, they soon faced the option of making yet another game, slightly connected to this one but in its own storyline, of course. We all know what happened, so yeah, let's move on. I love this game and you know that. I've talked about it thousands of times on several other videos, so it's of no surprise that if it's allegedly a spin-off, it would have had to be on a really high place for the top. It takes the first spot for obvious reasons. I'm a fan of twisted, dark and psychological stories. Nier has all of that. I love action RPGs with hack and slash elements. Nier also has all of that. Decent graphics, excellent soundtrack, emotional situations, a good challenge. Yeah, I'll never get tired of recommending this amazing masterpiece. Okay guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time.